Hey everyone, Jay here. If you live within reasonable traveling distance of the Philadelphia area and are looking to sell some witchy wares, spread awareness about your nonprofit group, or offer readings and other spiritual services, then you may want to get yourself a vending spot at Philadelphia Pagan Pride Day. The event will be held Saturday, September 1st from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at Clark Park B in West Philadelphia. If you're interested in getting a vendor spot, please go to philadelphiapaganpride.org and fill out the vendor application. Spaces are limited, so don't wait too long to apply for a spot. That's all for now. Enjoy the podcast. Hey everyone, I'm Jay.
And I'm Scott, and welcome to Witches Betwixt.
Today we're going to be talking about our personal practice. I guess sort of expanding on episode 1 when we gave a brief introduction of our origins and our witch origin stories. And this particular episode was mentioned in a comment that we got on one of our videos of one of the past episodes. Riley Tay wanted to know more about our personal practice. I hope I'm not butchering your name. I hope that's how you pronounce it. So yeah, we're gonna dive into that for you, and hopefully everyone else enjoys it as well.
Yes.
So as you can see, Scott has a giant stack of books on the table.
Yes, I do. This is not even a fraction of my occult library, but these are just a few books that are influential or in some way will help you understand how I practice my craft.
And I traveled here, so I don't have half of my occult library with me.
That is true, you don't. However...
But we share a lot of the same things.
We do. So one of the first books I think we'll show you, if you will also lift your copy up as well, for the YouTubes. For the people listening, it is Witches... it is Betwixt and Between by Storm Faerywolf. This book is a book all about the fairy tradition of witchcraft. The fairy tradition is an American system of traditional craft.
More based in ecstatic practice.
It is very ecstatic. It is a combination of Luciferian, folk magic like hoodoo, rich ceremonial magic, things like that. They've created a very interesting, it's a really
beautiful. I mean, I suggest everyone read this book.
I do 100%. As well.
Even if you're not interested in the fairy tradition of
the
witchcraft,
exercises
it's great. So I think it was important to sort of like start off maybe by showing these two books, because for me personally, in my personal craft and personal practice, this is where I'm at. I've been really everything that I have read so far in this book, and judging from my bookmark, I'm not done it. My SEPTA train ticket is my bookmark. But I'm not done it yet. But everything that I have read in this book so far, I'm having sort of another aha moment, another witch origin moment. Like when you're 15, 16, you find those things on Wicked.com, and you're like, oh my god, this is everything. And
right. I'm
having that moment again with this book, which was recommended by you.
It was.
So, thank you.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I'm currently, this is where I'm at, but I think we can kind of start from where we were. Maybe, like, where are you at now?
Where am I at? So we use the term witch a lot on this podcast, obviously. However, witch is not the only title that I'm comfortable with. I am also comfortable with the idea of a modern cunning man, or even like sorcerer. Those things are perfectly fine with me. At the end of the day, what we do is just I want to pull the book out to be corny and cheesy. A deed without a name. At the end of the day, what we do is just a deed without a name. Mm-hmm. And the reason I love this book, it is a small book. It is not very big, but A Deed Without a Name, Unearthing a Legacy of Traditional Witchcraft by Lee Morgan. If you need a primer, if you're interested in maybe branching out from Wicca and finding something a little bit different, this book is amazing. It has people and their personal experiences with finding their fetch or their familiar. It has spells, a few spells, older rituals. There's even an original ritual to bless water, to make pagan holy water, basically, or magical holy water, if you will. It has great history about witchcraft and what witchcraft looked like pre traditional Wicca, British traditional Wicca. And it's just a great primer.
Can I borrow this? I actually haven't read this.
Yeah, you can borrow it.
I'm going to bring home a lot of books. Can I borrow this?
Just as a heads up,
a whole stack.
Borrowing my books is very rare for people.
Yes. I mean, you know you'll be.
Yeah, I know.
You had my copy of A Book of Pagan Prayer by accident, though.
Totally by accident.
Yeah.
So
you're okay with this?
Yeah.
Add it to the list.
So, my practice very much looks like a lot of folk magic. I'll start with my spell books that I brought down. So here we have the British Book of Charms and Spells by Graham King. A lot of it looks very Catholic at a lot of the time.
That is important for you. That's important for you to note for your personal practice. You don't shy away from your Catholic origins.
I don't
anymore.
No, I don't. And you don't know something. It's not
because Catholicism is kind of witchy.
It's
with all their saints and stuff.
It's super witchy. When you get into folk magic, old folk magic, solution stuff. Oh, okay. Wound to stop bleeding. In nomine Patris et Filii Spiritus Sancti, caret cara serat. I'm horrible at Latin. Confirma, consana. You get the idea. In nomine Patris et Filii Sancti.
So a lot of this is based on like biblical stuff.
It is.
Is it like powwow then?
There are a lot of spells that you find in Dutch Brauerei or powwow that you will find in English folk magic and
so
other folk traditions. So a lot of that
translated over in America.
Correct. It also was, a lot of those customs were shared throughout the British Isles as well as the Scandinavian communities as well. So you'll find a lot of, for instance, the healing charm. This is the spell that we intone: flesh to flesh and bone to bone, sinew to sinew and vein to vein, and each shall be made whole again. The oldest version of that we have found is in Scandinavian or Nordic language.
Really?
Yes. So that's a large part of my practice is what I have. Simplistic charms, writing charms on parchment paper and folding them up and putting them in my pocket. I
feel like you are very much, in your current practice, you are very much the village witch.
I am. That's why I love the idea of being a modern cunning man.
That's what you mean by cunning man. In case anyone didn't really understand.
Right. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah. So you pretty much are. You really are the definition of the village witch.
And I pride myself on that. Yeah. Living in South Philly, I
kind of aspire to be that one day, but I definitely don't. I'm not that right now.
I mean, I'm probably not that either. But I like the idea that I am there to be there for my community. Mm-hmm. I don't maybe not put myself out there, but I feel as though maybe they didn't either. Mm-hmm. I feel as a lot of it was word of mouth.
Well, what's interesting is that the fact that you don't shy away from your Catholic origins and you do actually embrace that in your practice really resonates with this particular area. of Philadelphia, of South Philly. I mean, a lot of these people are Catholic Italians.
And I can't escape that here, and which is fine with me.
Which I think is really awesome that you have embraced it, because I think it's just, it's maybe part of it is just the cultural influence. Maybe you're like, well, I can't run away from it, so, might as well embrace it.
But it is also the culture.
Mm-hmm.
Most folk magic, including hoodoo, which is African folk magic,
which is different from the religion of
voodoo. Right? They are not the same thing. Folk magic. It's interesting because folk magic, although using religion as a focal point, folk magic is not a religion.
Right.
Your religion can be anything, and as you know, and as maybe you guys know, religion and my witchcraft. They are. I don't know what my religion is. I mean, yeah, I guess I'm dual faith. Like I always said, I'm pagan, and I'm Catholic. But in the sense of like, I acknowledge those spirits and those powers as viable, powerful entities.
I feel like the best way to describe your religious view is just polytheistic. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you believe
I mean, with
believe in the Christian God, just he is not the God that you work with.
Right. I guess my idea of religion is I see gods as something to work with, not gods as something that I.
Which is why I feel like if you were to sum it up, it'd probably just I'm polytheistic.
Animist, and polytheist.
Yeah.
Just because I'm also very much about local spirits and land wights and.
Yeah. So just to say that you're Wiccan would be completely false at this point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I feel the same.
Wicca does not.
In terms of religion, but in terms of conversation, it often makes it easier for people.
Yeah. Even the rituals that I do, by myself, do not look Wiccan.
Did they look Wiccan?
Oh yeah.
So, what was it in the beginning? And then we can kind of come back to what it is now. Because I kind of want to get into the progression of each of our personal practices.
It was Neo-Wicca. Modern American Neo-Wicca.
Yeah.
It was, love and light, and, witches don't do bad things, and witches don't do necromancy, and witches don't practice black magic. When in all reality, witches do black magic, witches do practice necromancy, witches do use blood in their spells. It's just a part.
It's just maybe Wiccans don't. And I think maybe early on that difference between Wiccan and witch was blurred.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I
Which I think it still continues to be blurred in some ways.
Which is interesting that you say that, just because I think a lot of traditional craft has become. Unfortunately, traditional craft comes with an aesthetic for a lot of younger people these days.
Yes.
They look at traditional craft as everything that they wanted Wicca to be, because, the puppy dog tails and, Eye of Newt and Toe Frog,
Bubble.
Which is ironic because I think I've mentioned before, I have used and do use bones, dried animals, things in my potions and my spells. Which, of course, to a Wiccan would seem dark, or otherwise nefarious.
Yeah, I wouldn't find that in any of Cunningham's books.
No.
No animal parts at all.
No. You really won't find that in most books.
Yeah.
But that's just because people don't want to talk about that now, just because of the society we live in. But the fact of the matter is that magic is much darker. Like, there was a time where we were boiling toads alive and making the toad bone charm, which is an incredibly old, very powerful charm. The black cat bone, in which we boil a cat alive in oil. And that was hoodoo, if I'm not mistaken. Or at least African magic. The toad bone's European. However, it just is a matter of what they did. It's not right or wrong, good or bad, blah, blah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Which I think is another perspective of the traditional craft in which good and evil is completely erased.
So, back to your origins and your personal practice. So, they were very, very Wiccan.
Very.
Okay. We kind of covered in episode 1 like how you came into Wicca and stuff like that. Definitely, if you haven't seen that one, check that out because I don't want to rehash too much of that.
Right.
In this one. But basically, it was the typical kind of like I'm on the internet and I found a whole bunch of stuff.
Right. Right.
So it was very Wiccan. When did it start to shift, and what caused that shift?
There were a couple things. One of the things was I didn't like the dynamic of like deity. I was always, and it's funny because I'm not an atheist, but I always had a very hard time with gods.
Yeah, you told me that.
In the sense that I find gods, and this isn't to offend the gods that I do work with, but the fact of the matter is I feel like the gods that I work with would be honest about this, and they'd be like, well, yeah, they're very fickle. We don't have, in our traditions, even in pagan traditions.
They have infinite time and space in which to function.
Right, and they're also...
So they think way differently from us.
And we also, I mean, what I was trying to get at was, our gods are not omnipresent.
Right, they're not always here.
Right. It's more like when we worship them or when we discuss with them, it's more like, hey, here's this offering, can you pay attention to me?
Like leaving them a voicemail.
Right. I mean, unless, of course, you really know what you're doing, and then sometimes you're kind of like, oh, damn, okay, that's instantaneous, which is great. And, I mean, I've had that. Don't get me wrong. It's just that sometimes you're kind of like, you can do that. Yeah. You're a witch. Do it yourself. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of ways, I respect that. I like that. I like that they leave me to...
your own autonomy.
Yeah, I like that a little bit. I don't like leaning on gods.
Well, also, you feel like you walk beside gods. You don't feel like, you worship them as in... I am not worthy.
Right. And don't get me wrong. Do I completely understand that gods are above me?
For sure.
Absolutely.
You would never go toe-to-toe with a god.
But say
you would
that...
stand your ground.
Right.
As best as you could.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like, it's in the same sense that just because you're a god, maybe... Well, like a lot of people say about spirits, like non-god-like spirits. I mean, I probably find gods to be maybe a little bit more... all-knowing in the sense of, like, if they point me in a direction, they're not going to steal me wrong. Right. But, like,
versus
you don't trust every spirit who tells you to go do something, know?
Yeah. You gotta check your sources.
Right. So, it was really just this craving for more. I needed more magic. I didn't want more religion.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with religion, it's just, as I just said, I don't want to lean on gods. Mm-hmm. I want to know what I'm capable of. So while I respect the land spirits and I work with them and I work with the dead, I probably work with the dead the most.
So around what time period did that shift? Like what grade?
High school. Around around 10th and 11th grade.
Okay, so oh my god, broke you right over. Excuse me. So you got into it in middle school then?
Well, not Wicca. Wicca was, oh yeah. I was 10 years old when I got into Wicca.
Okay, yeah, because you were much younger than me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, early high school is when, it started becoming, well, I'm not Wiccan, I'm pagan.
Yeah.
And I started saying that, but then all of a sudden that didn't work because pagan is a religion. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of like, Right. Meh. I mean, it fits somewhere, but it's not. It wasn't it. And then all of a sudden, it's funny because I was reading more traditional craft without knowing it. Mm-hmm. With that, I wanted to present this book, The Sorcerer's Secrets by Jason Miller. Jason Miller is absolutely amazing. He's fantastic. He lives in Pennsylvania, or New Jersey, but very close.
What's the difference sometimes?
Yeah.
All the Philly people are like,
he has he has a lot of classes.
Uh-huh.
He does teach a lot of classes. However, his books, if you read them, in my personal opinion, he gives you a lot.
Yeah.
He basically makes you a very capable sorcerer, a magician, a very capable, strategic and practical magic. Mm-hmm. And he makes you that. If you pay attention, he will help you. And you don't have to agree with, he is very ceremonial. Mm-hmm. Evohe, like, you know, all that. But, like, and while I'm not big
everything is very thus and so, and
I mean, I guess. He just does a lot of traditional like magic, but high magic, traditional high magic, which I don't like using those terms all that often, but for the sake of explaining and simplicity. However, in general, what he says is amazing. And that's kind of how I started, without even knowing that I was reading traditional craft.
So it was kind of a natural thing for you.
It really did, which is why I always say...
So it wasn't like one day you woke up and you were like, oh, I need to change everything about this. It was just, you just started finding different books and reading different books, and then you were like, well, these ideas are taking form and changing.
Right. And I also, you know, it's funny because I started also realizing certain other things began to happen as well. Like, for instance, now I've never went through an initiation, and I don't practice it just for reasons. But I remember when I was in high school, I started waking up saying the names of the Loa from Haitian Voodoo. And when I say saying the names, I'm not talking like the English names, the Anglo-Saxonized names. I'm talking like
the names.
One of them anyway, which I found out much later, that it was Bawan Samdi. And I found out that the reason I was waking up saying these names, one, I didn't know, because I looked up Bawan Samdi and that didn't actually come up. It was Barron Samedi. And it's funny, I didn't learn until later from a Haitian coworker of mine that's how they say it in Haiti, Bawan Samdi. So I was being spoken to in Haitian without even, or at least the Haitian.
Yeah.
And now, of course, once again, as I said, I didn't get initiated. I don't work with the Loa only because, one, I don't want to get initiated in voodoo. I really don't want to be initiated by a white person into voodoo.
I feel that, yeah.
So if I were to do that...
I feel like we could have an entire episode on cultural appropriation.
We could, which is why I won't do it. I respect the Loa, and I acknowledge their presence. And I feel like they're kind of... I feel like they would welcome me there if I went there. But it's one of those situations... It's one of those situations where I'm not going to go to a white person to initiate me.
Right, yeah.
And it's really hard to find a person who is Haitian or who was trained in Haitian voodoo, in the States anyway, at least for me. And I felt like if it was supposed to be, it would be with a tradition like that.
I mean, who knows?
But I kind of, you know, so all these kind of very, how do I put this, very cultural religions, traditional religions, traditional magic, started kind of becoming prevalent in my life, kind of accidentally. So it was almost like a calling. That's why, like, traditional craft I've always said, almost it called me to it. I didn't do much of anything to get called to it. It was more just kind of like, you know, Jason Miller and other authors who I was reading who were traditional craft, and I wasn't realizing it. And slowly, eventually coming to be like, traditional craft is a thing. That was kind of my almost final aha moment. Just because now when I'm studying things like the fairy tradition, to me it's all just expanding upon my traditional craft.
Right, yeah.
Now it's all this one beautiful, limitless.
I feel like the fairy tradition has found a way to bring it all together.
Or expand, but either way, yes.
Yeah. Well, like, bring it all together, but also bring it all together in a way that's easy to work with as one piece.
More applicable. I see what you're saying.
But then, by doing so, you can apply it everywhere.
To things like that book, The D Without a Name, which is not fairy. But, yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I love the energy of traditional craft. Mm-hmm. I like that the traditional craft, like, and I say this, and I know I say this a lot, and I almost sort of mean it. Traditional craft feels like an entity in and of itself.
Yeah, like a living, breathing, existing.
It feels like an old hag, an old crone who throws bones and lives inside you, and she's a bit of a mad woman in that, she forever creates and destroys, and she lives inside you, and she it's just...
I would agree with that, because I feel like I was sort of repressing those feelings.
Scary.
Yeah.
Oh, when you're first coming into it, you're like, am I supposed to do this?
Right.
Are you actually something that I should even... Or like, and it's not like she came to me as an entity, but should I be here?
Yeah, should I be here? Should I do this? Should I listen to you? Should I follow you? Like, should I?
Mm-hmm.
But it was very scary to come into, because I was Wiccan. I was very Wiccan for a while.
You were.
I was very Wiccan for a while. I was very Wiccan up until I'd met you. And we had been friends for...
Oh, God, actually longer than I thought. Is it? Oh, I've known Rick for 5, yeah.
Alright, so like 5 or 6 years then. Yeah.
Well done.
Because I had met you...
Very soon.
Yeah.
Like half a year after I met...
Or so like 5, 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
5 years, whatever. So... But I was like in a lull in my practice when I met you. The only thing that I really knew was Wicca. I didn't really have any other witch friends.
Yeah.
So when... And it was funny because
I love the story.
Rick would tell me about you. And he'd be like, yeah, my friend Scott, like...
He's like this witchy witch.
He does, like, some shit. And I was like, how dare he do that? Like, what kind of motherfucker? Like, I originally, like, did not like you. Based off of Rick's description of
my
you.
practice,
Because
yeah.
it made it seem like you were just whipping up curses and hexes left and right. It was the way that he had talked about you.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, when I met you, I was like, wait. There's no way.
Is this the same?
Yeah, I was like, there's no way. So, like, when I met you and we actually talked about it, I was still very guarded and still very Wiccan about, like, my viewpoints on it.
Mm-hmm.
But you had actually planted the seed. Well, maybe not planted the seed. I think you kind of watered the seed that was already in the back of my head.
Yeah.
And you had basically been, like, just gave me that thing to be like, all right, well, witchcraft is powerful, but it doesn't necessarily, like, why limit yourself with it? You know, like, why are you going to... Like, it's almost like, so it was almost like being Wiccan for me almost felt like being Catholic. Like,
yes.
You're kind of like, well, that's a sin, and I can't do that. You know, like, this person hurt me, and I want to hurt them back. Which,
believe it or not, is from that when we talked about the New Age movement coming into modern American Wicca, because the New Age movement is
Catholic or Christian influence.
The concepts, what is that called?
Because there's a very...
The theology behind New Age things.
Yeah, there's a very strong concept
Catholic,
of right and wrong.
Yes.
Which I was like, if witchcraft is this living, breathing force, this entity that I feel in the back of my mind, because again, like I would, you're reading about like throwing the bones and things like that, and crushing up. Just the actions of witchcraft. Like, yeah, Wicca does have that, but Wicca also...
It's clean.
It's very clean, exactly. So Wicca also felt to me very much like, well, you could crush your herbs yourself, or you could buy them already crushed, that's fine. Like, Wicca just made everything seem fine. Like, everything was fine. And, if that is what you practice and that's what you follow...
I mean, I still use dried herbs, too, but, like...
Yeah, it's fine. Like,
I have wildcrafted my own herbs as well.
Yeah, like, I had, I have powdered eggshell at home, and I was grinding that shit down, like, as best as I could with just mortar and pestle. But then, after a point, I put it in a blender thing. So I was like, no. Yeah. But it didn't make me feel any less witchy.
No, I mean, like, once again, like I said, just because we live in a modern age doesn't mean it's, like, not witchy anymore.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But, for me, when traditional witchcraft came into my life, it made me a warrior, it made me a mystic, it made me powerful.
That's how I felt after talking to you for a while.
Power in the sense that it taught me you are going to suffer. There is nothing. Life is suffering.
You can't do anything about it.
And you will do nothing about it, but you will be strong.
Mm-hmm.
You will cry. You will be depressed. You will have your health problems. You will go through everything you're going to go through, but at the same time, while you're crying, you are going to stand back up and you are going to take up your weapon again, and you are going to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't fall.
Yeah.
And that is what, or at least when we fall, we get back up. And that is what witchcraft taught me. Traditional craft. And that's what it instilled.
And having that shift in viewpoint for me to more traditional witchcraft, because before I was very Wiccan and very ceremonial. Like, I had to have every single piece of the whatever it was as it was written, you know, dot the I's, cross the T's. Everything was very precise and specific, but it felt still stifling. It felt freeing in a way, but also still stifling. So the fact that when, you know, like, traditional witchcraft came along, it's like, all right, well, I can do a spell right now if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
I could draw a sigil right here on this piece of paper right now if I wanted to, and I could put my intent into it. Like, yeah, my intention is divided and focused right now.
So you couldn't do it, like, right now, but I know what you're saying.
But yeah, but, like, we could just, like, hit pause and we could do a spell because we feel the need to.
Mm-hmm.
Or leave an offering or something because we feel the need to. With Wicca, it was very much like, you know, well, if Jupiter is in alignment with blah, like, I was... Yeah. And it felt so overwhelming. And I was like, is this the way it is? Like, is this the way I have to go about this? And some traditional witches are like that, you know, the moons and the this and the that.
I enjoy doing that sometimes.
It depends on how potent I want it to be.
And even then, I mean, I can make a potent spell without all that. It's just sometimes it's nice.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like it. But there are times where it's like, I don't have time to wait for, you know, Saturn and Jupiter to do these things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's kind of like, I need to do this now, and I don't give a damn, and I'm going to do it, and all of a sudden, it's the most powerful thing I've ever done.
Because I think you're putting you're putting more of your will and your sense of urgency into it.
Yes.
So, talking to you is actually what had made me kind of go more the traditional witchcraft.
Which makes me really happy. Yeah. I mean, it's
converted me.
Yeah. and you know, and I never once, and I think, at least I hope I didn't. I hope I didn't make you feel like you had to at any point.
No, because like I said initially, I was like, I didn't agree with a lot of things that I was told that you were doing. And then after talking to you, I was like, all right, well, that's really not that egregious because that person deserved that thing that you did, or whatever the case was. So, and so then the books that I started finding and the books that I started seeking out were a lot different. They weren't all Wiccan based. They weren't anything like that. So I would say that probably since I've known you for the past 5 to 6 years is when I have been considering myself just a witch.
Mm-hmm.
And just doing, like, traditional witchcraft. I don't think I subscribe to any, like, I don't have any particular interest in voodoo like you do, or kind of like in hoodoo rootwork conjure. I do kind of like, I'm kind of reading more about that and I'm into it. Yeah. But I kind of just consider myself more of a witch. But mostly what I like to do in my practice is a lot of self-empowerment things, because I'm, like, going through a lot of shit in my life. Mm-hmm. So it's mostly just keeping me standing and going and motivated, but a lot of it is also helping the people around me that want it and ask for it and need it.
You actually, believe it or not, it's funny, because I think you are more of the cunning person in some ways than I am, just because you are so quick to work with people and do spells with people. Mm-hmm. And I am actually, I am much more hesitant. Mm-hmm.
Like if someone came to me right now and was like before, in this moment, I really did feel like the village witch, like that cunning man kind of thing, because it was Katie's brother had gotten entangled with a woman, and she was like, "Oh, I'm a witch and I'm gonna curse you, and I hex people that, you know, do me wrong or whatever," and he apparently had reason to believe that she was going to curse him or hex him or whatever the case was. And so he came to me and he said, what do I do? What do I do if she curses me? And I was just, like, sitting at my desk, and I had, like, all my books around, and my altar is, like, right here.
That's perfect!
Like, right beside me. It's, like, right to the left. I'm going right here, but, like, people on the podcast.
You have your glasses and, like, your candles.
Yes! I wanted my glasses to be, like, on, like, a chain or something, like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But and, like, my chair swivels, so I just, like, swiveled around, and I just, like, and I had the Judica...
Isles?
It is written Isles, but I think it's...
Illis.
It's
yeah.
I listened to that podcast of New World Witchery when
Yeah.
they had her on there. And I was like, oh, I've been butchering your name for so long. But I had, like, the book of 5,000 spells right next to me, and I was like, boom! And then, like, you start rifling through it, and I'm looking what I have, and it was just a very, like, fulfilling and rewarding experience to be able to use my craft and my knowledge to help someone.
And I think, and it's
and the fact that he came to me and he was, like, sitting in a chair, like, right near my desk, like
and you're validated in that moment.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And it's fun because I've had so many lay people say to me, I love when you say to diagnose me or to give me to like, they love when I treat them like a doctor in the sense of it's doctoring. Yeah. Right, and a lot of people have called it that.
Yeah.
And, so like I tell people, like I love when I get to ask questions, like, for people that come to me like that. And I'm like, did she have access to any of your dirty clothes? Did she have access to your hair or your blood? like, and I like being able to...
Yeah, I was saying that to him. I was like, do you, by any chance, because he shaves his head and stuff, but, like, I guess beard hair could be used too.
Oh, easily.
But I said to him, I was like, do you have any of her hair on your clothing or whatever? And he was like, no. And I was like, that's a good card to have in your back pocket if you ever needed it. Because I was about to be like, hair, vial, keep, just in case.
I mean, you could have bound her with that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You could have stopped the curse altogether. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love that feeling. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I do it.
But yeah, you're more hesitant.
I am. Mostly because...
But I think you're even more hesitant. We were kind of talking about this a little bit before we started. You're more hesitant with other witches. When other witches come to you and be like, I need your,
well,
this and that.
Don't come to me asking for my knowledge for free. I mean, and I know...
Yeah, because witches, they would trade, like, they would be like, hey, listen, Well, I mean, I guess it's one... Because, like, sometimes I do ask you things. But it's usually I already have a half-assed plan in motion, though.
But I feel like that's different.
It is different.
I think,
I'll be like, I have a problem,
when they don't put the work in.
Right.
It's if you're not working at all for it,
yeah,
then I feel like I'm giving it to you for free.
Right. It's like, I have a problem. Here's what I'm thinking. What do you think?
That I love. That's not for free.
Right.
When it's for free is when I didn't do any research. I'm just coming to you.
Or like when Darren asked you how to make that thing.
Yeah.
And he was like, how'd you do it? And you're like, well, I had like 6 books open. Okay.
Yeah. I just don't believe in giving it up for free. I really don't. Yeah.
But to lay people, it's different.
Well, and you know what the problem I have with lay people is they want you either, one, oh God.
Instant hocus pocus.
Really strange morally things that I might not agree with, or one of my personal pet peeves, I just want to see it. I just want to know. Like, I just want you to do a spell, and I just want the feeling of watching it happen. Wow. I just want to see it work, and it's just so cool.
I want to see it work. Work. That word. So, with lay people, the only issue that I had, like, here's why I probably should take a little page from your book and be a little, like, less eager, because... Like, I'll start doing the thing, and I get it all together, and I'm like, okay, here's what you have to do. You gotta, take 2 Advil, call me in the morning kind of thing. But, like, here's everything you have to do. Here's the thing. Here's the finished thing delivered to you. This is what you have to do. Whether it's, like, hang this thing up and, put your intent into it, 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night, or whatever the case is. And then they go, one, oh, I don't want to do that.
Yep. Yeah.
Or the other is, so how do I know if it works? Or...
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, like, how do I know if it worked? It's like, alright, well, I mean, you know, like, for example, I had made my partner a charm for her car. It had 3 cat's whiskers in it. And it was in a glass vial, and it's on a green string. And it said, hang it from mirror to mirror. And basically the idea was coming back to that folk myth of, you know, escape danger by a cat's whisker.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, the number 3 was intentional, you know, morning, noon, and night. And I have 3 cats. And so I collect their whiskers when they shed them.
Mm-hmm.
So I have, like, a bowl of, like, whiskers sitting on my altar. And my roommate, like, she'll just dump them in there every once in a while. So I had the 3 whiskers. So she had actually gotten into a car accident. She had the charm hanging. Thankfully, it was not that bad. So I feel like some lay people would argue, oh, well, your charm didn't work.
Right.
Because she actually got into a collision. There was an accident. But I look at it as that could have been fatal. That could have been deadly.
You know what I mean? There's a movie.
So I feel like you escaped danger by a cat's whisker.
There's a movie called The Forgotten, and it deals with like Native American like witchcraft and Native American magic. And there's an evil practitioner who is basically cursing these people. And there's a scene in which he puts these beaded jewelry around one of the kids' necks and says, leave it there to protect you. Mm-hmm. Well, this is in the early beginnings of the movie. The mother's very skeptical of this, because the mother's a doctor. And this movie takes place in, the era of, cowboys and the first of, the railways, whatever that time period is. 1800s? Not really.
Oh, right, but when we believed in bloodletting and leeches for everything, but, not Native American charms.
Anyway, there's a scene where they end up getting knocked into a rushing river. I'm talking we'll beat you up, kill you, make you drown kind of thing. Yeah. And the movie does a very good job. All of a sudden you hear kind of a Native American music start playing as they're their Native American grandfather's trying to wrestle them back onto shore. And when they finally are saved, the mother says some charm, something to the effect of some charm or whatever, and he says, but they're alive. And I think that's... Yeah, I think that's kind of the point that I was trying to make. Yeah, and it is. And I think that people, I think, expect magic to work outside of the norm. But magic is very natural.
It's in that accident, it was well, what was her car supposed to do? Fly?
Right.
It's no, that's not
it's
realistic.
About probability.
Yeah.
It's about affecting probability and reworking fate in a way. And that's how magic works. Magic is a subtle force, completely unstoppable, but completely subtle, and it into the cracks and through the holes.
I think it also comes down to the concept of fate as well.
In what way?
So, alright, you know the Disney movie Hercules, right? I really like that movie, 1, because it's just a fun movie, and 2, there's a lot of symbolism in it that I love.
Okay.
So you have the fates, the 3 old hags that share the one eye, and the string. Yeah. Right? So, basically they had prophesized, if Hercules fights in your takeover for Olympus, you'll lose. And Hades was waiting for all the planets to align and this particular thing, which kind of reminds me of, witches and stuff. And he was waiting for this exact moment for this thing to happen. So he tries, he plots his takeover. Well, Hercules isn't entirely mortal. Whatever, he doesn't drink it to the last drop. Whatever, the whole thing. But it makes me think of that, because, magic sort of... some things are just fated to happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In that movie, those kids falling into the river. Maybe that was fated to happen, but they were not supposed to live. and the magic intervened with that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can make me, like, say, like a protective charm from, like, you know, suppose, like, there was, like, some guy that was out there was, like, mugging people, like, left and right, and I'm like, I feel really uncomfortable, like, walking to the train. You'd be like, look, here, take this charm, and this will protect you. So, I go out, I get mugged by the guy, but he doesn't get my phone. Like, I would consider that, like, good. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you got the couple dollars in my wallet and I can cancel all my credit cards, but I have my really expensive phone still. You know what I mean? Right. And I did not encounter bodily harm.
I mean, and sometimes I think that, like, I mean, magic can do, magic can do wonderful things. Like, there are stories about people who conjured their familiar and have had people run away because, you know, they really thought they saw a giant black dog. Mm-hmm. And her familiar was a giant black dog. Mm-hmm. And they were like, where'd that dog come from? You know, and they heard, you know, and the thing is, there was no black dog there. She just summoned her familiar in her mind, and her familiar was able to manifest to these people. Mm-hmm. And you know, I think that's how magic works. It works on a subtle level, on an unconscious, a psychological level.
Right,
that breaks out into the physical. And you know, there are times where even, you know, magic has completely avoided a mugging, in which, you know, like that, for instance, you know, where they run or something scares them, you know, and then but the same, I mean, you can even flip the script. They're, like, in Italy, if you look up love charms. Love charms are very popular in Old Italy, in Italian folk magic. And a lot of murders and a lot of suicides at a point were chalked up to botched love charms.
That makes sense.
Make someone so madly in love with you. Yeah. And you don't realize what you're asking for.
And you don't reciprocate.
And then they go mad. Yeah. And, you know, whether you believe in that or not, I actually do. On
a level, yeah.
I do a lot, actually. But, yeah. I think, trying to think of exactly the point I was trying to make.
I think we're just talking about, like, how magic works.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about lay people and how they'll be like, well, how do I know if it worked?
Right. I mean, and
you'll
that's...
You'll know if it worked...
When it works.
When it works. Yeah. Exactly. Like, and here's the thing. It could be tomorrow. It could be 3 years from now.
And I think that
it really depends.
For me, I find that when magic does that, that's more of an, for me, and I don't want anyone to be offended, but that's more of an error on our part. Just because you have to be able to word your spells and have your intentions line up. You have to be balanced to be able to make a spell.
Well, it also depends on the intention.
Right.
Like,
well, the intention,
it could be a thing, like, I want this thing to be, like, this is a long-term issue. You know what I mean? Like, like a success charm or something like that. Or,
right.
You know what I mean? It depends. Are you looking for short-term success or long-term success? And then, again, it comes into your spell construction.
Right. You have to make sure your spells are constructed, and your willpower and your intention and the words that you use are aligned with each other.
But no, you're not going to just hear a zap, a crackle, and a pop one day, and then the thing I give you is going to, like, burst into flame. Like, it's not going to be like that.
As cool as that would be.
As cool as that would be, it's not going to be Hollywood pop culture magic. It's not what it's going to be, but you will
or know. Can experience wonderful things.
Yeah, or if you experience a thing, call me, ask me, message me, be like, hey, this happened. Like,
is this a thing?
What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you. I'll be like, honestly, I think that was just a thing, completely unrelated.
Yeah.
Or I'll be like, that's a really good example of that thing working for you.
I also think, too, is that for me, what you first said with lay people when they don't want to do the work, when they're I'm not going to do that, that honestly actually irks me the most.
Yeah, it really frustrates me.
And the reason for that is because when I doctor people with stuff like this, when I actually do it for people, it is coming from my spirits. I am sitting there doing divinations first. I'm sitting there meditating on it. I'm sitting there, you know, asking my familiars and my ancestors and the mighty dead. I'm saying, hey, this situation, blah, blah, blah. You know, what should I do?
What do we do about it?
So when the ancestors, when the spirits and things are like, oh, well, this is how you're going to handle this. You're going to do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. The thing is that the ancestors intend... they put in the work. If you really want the thing, then you got to mean the thing. And if you really mean it, you're going to put in the work. But if the ancestors say to you, oh, for a week, you have to take this bath, and you have to burn this candle right after the bath.
Well, it's also like when a doctor prescribes you an antibiotic.
Take this pill the same time every day.
Take this pill 3 times, with food. Specifically, don't drink orange juice because that's going to give you an upset stomach.
Right.
It's just, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Well, my doctor said. Well, yeah, your witch doctor said.
Right.
to do this.
Right. And it's, don't come to me if you're not going to listen. Yes. Because the worst part is then I give them some spell, like I give them a simple little charm.
It's like, what do you have to do? Like, put the charm in a prescription bottle for them to get it?
I honestly have to basically dumb it down.
Yeah.
I have to be like, here's a simple charm. The problem is when I do that, it doesn't work as well.
Right. It dumbs down the charm. It weakens the charm.
Because the spirits are saying you have to put this much work in to get rid of this curse. You have to put this much work in to get the job. So if you don't want to do it, then don't ask.
Yeah, I mean, like, for that hexing thing, for example, that happened to me. Like, I was like, okay, I was thinking of doing something like a honey jar or sweetening jar. Like, not necessarily fight fire with fire initially. Just butter her up, sweeten her up. Don't give her a reason to think that you're hex-worthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, avoid it altogether, And I thought that was, like, a great first step.
I like that. That's clever.
Mm. So I was thinking of doing, like, a honey jar, sweetening jar kind of thing. Like, a little mason jar. Maybe put, like, little notes of intention in there, mixed with honey.
Seals.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, every so often when you think of something...
I'm already thinking about herbs I'd add to it. I'm like, well, because she was a little hostile, I'd add some clove, I'd add some master root.
Yeah, like...
Be a little bit more forceful.
Exactly. Don't give her a reason. Don't give her a reason to make you a target. Right. Why would you even... unless... But that's the other thing. That is the other... Well, what it came down to was I don't want to do that. I don't want to put in the work like that. So essentially I'd given it... So then I was like, so I just dumbed it down. And it really, like, killed my witch hive, too. Because I was like, okay,
it is a little bit of a kick to the...
It's a little bit of a buzzkill. Huh. And then I just ended up giving him, like, some powdered eggshell in a little vial. And I was like, sprinkle this over your shoulder or something. Or, put this, or just keep it.
And the problem is that when you do
Which is fine, but it's also like...
It's not as powerful. Because you don't know the kind of power they're putting into it.
Right.
And
I had met her in person. And I got weird vibes from her. So I was like, whoa. So that's why I went for the honey jar. Because I was like, don't give her a reason to even cook something up. Don't even give her a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been there. I know that.
Yep. Putting in the work. I guess that's the other thing, too, is, like, if there are any lay people that watch this, because I don't know if there are. There might be.
That would be interesting.
Or even communicate this to, like, if you're struggling with this with your friends that come to you for magical advice and stuff like that, maybe have, like, a little disclaimer discussion before you actually get into it.
Set your boundaries.
Yeah. Be like, if I'm going to suggest this option for you, I want you to know that I consider this to be the best option. It may not be the easiest option, but it is the most powerful option.
I also want to say this, and I want all of you, whether you're young witches, new witches, old school, whatever, if you feel as though you cannot do the working, whether it is for moral reasons or you're not in it enough, or whatever the reason may be, you are more of a powerful witch to say, I cannot do that, than to try to do it and fail. If you know in yourself, and you will know, let's be real, just politely decline. If you have a friend who would take up the person, to help them, refer them to your friend.
Or maybe work with the friend and be like, hey, what if we do something together?
That as well, that helps as well.
I can add my good intent for my friend.
And chant, and
I can
you
also
stay and chant.
Learn.
Right. So please understand that no one would have the ability to say to you, oh, you're just not good enough, or you're not a real witch. That shit is bullshit. You trust me, you are a witch. If you are here and you're doing the work, you are a witch. And
if your friend is like, oh, well, that's lame, like, you know.
Right,
like,
especially...
let it roll off your back because they don't understand.
Right, and especially, too, you'll find this, especially if it's a moral thing. I had someone come to me recently asking me basically to help her, or to help them, I hope she doesn't listen to this, cheat on their significant other.
Whoa.
With their other boyfriend.
So they're poly.
No, the other boyfriend does not know about the other person. It is cheating. And I basically...
have issues with that.
I do. Yeah. I do have issues with that.
It's like either be poly or monogamous, not both.
Yeah. Don't cheat.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, when I told her we have to do a reading, I said I have to see if my spirits will do that.
Yeah.
My spirits honestly said no.
I mean, I think even like, you morally were like, no.
I mean, I won't lie to you. At first, because I really need money right now, I thought about that. I thought about on a practical level. I said, can I will up a coldness so cold?
So you were approaching it from a point of logic.
But then my emotions took over, as they would, and I said I've completely ignored her. And I have not done any of the things that I said I would do for her just because I cannot. Yeah. And you want to know something? I don't lose sleep over it.
No.
She might see me as a fraud. She might see me as whatever. But you want to know something? That's totally okay.
But your fellow witches would see you as a damn good witch.
To say that I couldn't. Now, there are witches who may do that, who may have no problem at all doing that. Which is great. I don't care.
Yeah,
it doesn't affect my life.
It is. But it depends on the level of separation that you have. Like, you know, if your moral compass is a huge driving force in your personal craft, then okay.
Don't ignore who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you can separate yourself, if you can be like, well, this is just a service I'm performing for money, fine. Or whatever the exchange is, whether it's whatever. You know, if this is just a service I'm performing for XYZ reasons, then fine. That's fine too. But don't shame other people for their reasonings behind things.
Right.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Because that's not cool.
So, yeah.
I think what we've really gotten into in personal practice here is went in a different direction than I thought it was going to go.
But I like it.
I do like it. I think that, I think we both kind of really identify as, cunning men.
Yeah.
I think it's really using what we have learned and what we know to help
other people and ourselves.
Yeah, exactly, for ourselves, but just to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
To practice and apply that. Because I love crafting spells and things for people, and not to use the podcast because we already plugged your thing at the end, but if you do want something or whatever, don't hesitate to reach out to us if you feel like we in particular could help you achieve a thing or do a thing.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be a lot
that
of
really
fun.
is your business.
It's trying to be. It's trying to be. I am trying to. I mean, I do read. You'll find my little ad at the end of this podcast. But trying to maybe make folk charms, little charms and things, and sewing them up into bags that are all hand blessed and hand consecrated. They obviously, it will take time. They're all handmade by me. But those are things that I would like to sell.
That is a thing. If for some reason you're watching this and listening and you do want something, we do offer those things. You so more than me.
But I think, if they're gonna, I actually would love your help. You know that I've
of course.
wanted Witchwise to become something that I shared. One of these days maybe I'll tell you guys about my dream of what Witchwise should be, maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, I really like the way that this really developed. Is there any other books over there that you wanted to kind of talk about?
Oh man, yes. I have
because I feel like books. I wish I would have brought more of my books.
So we have here Ecstatic Witchcraft by Gede Parma,
which I will eventually want to steal from you. I'm gonna buy it though.
Everything by Gede Parma is pretty much absolutely amazing. He himself is queer identifying, both as far as his sexuality and gender.
And his writing style is very
eloquent and to the point, and easy to read.
Yeah, he's able to be eloquent, but also to the point. Yes. Exactly. Yeah, like it's a very beautiful read. He writes like fiction, but with the accuracy of nonfiction.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like that. I like that a lot. Other spell books that, if you're interested in folk
for
magic,
queer witchcraft in particular, anything by Gede Parma.
Even for non-queer people, he's amazing. But I mean, if you want someone to read who you can vibe with, please read that. Mm-hmm. Other spell books that you can, I have tons more, are The Book of Gold and The Wicked Shall Decay. The Book of Gold is written by David Rankine and Paul Harry Barron. The Wicked Shall Decay, Charms, Spells, and Witchcraft of Old Britain is written by A.D. Mercer. Those are two amazing newer spell books that I have. Now, the next author, I'm kind of glad I'm saving her for the end, is probably currently one of my most favorite witch authors out there right now.
That's a compliment.
One of, but she is absolutely stunningly amazing, and her name is Corinne Boyer. She currently has 2 books out. She might actually, I actually think she has a 3rd one coming out, but being a poor person, I cannot get that right now. But this one
Donate to the Patreon that doesn't exist yet.
This is called Under the Witching Tree by Corinne Boyer. This is a book all about tree folklore and tree magic. Not only does she just do like magic, she gives a spell, and she also gives a recipe every chapter. So for every tree, she gives medicinal recipes as well, basically. So spell recipes, medicinal recipes, folk charms.
That is funny you mentioned that in this next book. Yeah, I'll wait till you after this book.
The next book of hers, now I know this will probably be maybe a little bit, the title might be a little jarring for some people. But you have to understand what it means. Plants of the Devil, as I said, by Corinne Boyer. This book is a book of herbal folklore. It is all about the witch's devil, the horned god, in all of his guises. So in a wise one, but I mean, in particular, I would say that this probably looks at his more insidious face. It looks at his shadow. Mm-hmm. You know, the devil, the adversary of, which we do know.
So are these all like poisonous plants?
Not all of them. Many, there are poisonous plants in here.
I figured.
But many of them are...
just for that darker, shadowy
that come with the folklore. She is also a herbal historian.
Oh.
So all of her...
What a cool job.
I mean, I don't know if she would maybe call herself that, but I would, just because she is so...
No, that's just cool to be like, I'm an herbal historian.
She is so well researched in the folklore of herbs. Mm-hmm. She teaches you folk names that I've never heard of. She teaches you wonderful enchantments, some of them nefarious, some of them positive, some of them conjuring dark forces to protect from dark forces, some of them are plants of divine or celestial energies in which protect from the devil or dark forces. It's this little book is chock full of wonderful, 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 great historical charms, knowledge. Please read this book. Please read everything by Corinne Boyer. She's amazing.
And I'll put information and links to... I'm assuming you can buy all these online somewhere.
Oh, all of these are completely purchasable online.
Yeah. So I'll put links and all in the show notes.
Also, if you ever want us to talk about books, we can talk about books. I
would actually like to do a whole podcast on, like, maybe more books, just, like, general, like, overviews of more books. But what I was also thinking, and, we can also get feedback from, viewers and stuff from this, is maybe little, because I think you could put, 1 minute of video on Instagram?
Well, now there's IGTV.
What?
There is Instagram TV now.
Oh, my gosh.
So I want to use that.
What was that, for live streaming or something?
Basically.
Well, no, you can already
There is live stream, and now there's Instagram TV. So.
Oh, it's going to be a YouTube competitor.
Basically. Because YouTube is failing on certain things.
Yeah, on the LGBT community. Hey. you ain't gotta dance around that topic.
Yeah, I mean, not that witchcraft.
I don't monetize I don't.
Not that witchcraft videos ever get monetized anyway.
Yeah,
religious videos.
On all our stuff, it's all tagged like LGBT, queer, trans.
However,
witchcraft.
I'm sorry. For those of you who do watch our YouTube, I want you to. Well, no, they won't monetize it, so there's no ads.
No, I turned monetization. I can't.
Monetization off.
Yes. I don't even bother with it because I know it won't.
Good. Just because if there was ever any of the homophobic ads that were playing... I don't want them
getting any ad revenue whatsoever. It's literally on YouTube just for people who would prefer YouTube versus audio. That's the only reason it's on YouTube. It's literally for you guys.
Okay.
And it will be better quality one day, just, money and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. This is, I think, going to be our sign-off.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and to our new patrons, whatever. Thanks for
we've got some new
board.
Subscribers on the YouTube. We're up to 10 subscribers now.
Oh, really?
Which is crazy.
That's great, actually.
I know. I know.
For me, that's great.
And some people are like, oh my god, I have 1 million subscribers. I'm like, we have 10. Hey. No, we have 10 subscribers, and I'm super happy about that. And our watch time has increased so much since sharing these links and stuff.
That's great.
So I'm ecstatic.
Thank you. I think what we're trying to say is thank you.
Because literally, it's just we're just recording and filming us talking about this stuff that we always talk about. So I mean to share it with people is actually really awesome for us. It's rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
It's really rewarding. So yes, thank you.
And I hope you guys don't mind the rambling at the end of this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I like the conversation. I liked it because I think it just made me realize really where my craft is right now.
Yeah.
I'm just here to share it with people and keep it for myself, but also share it with people. So yeah, any other questions that you want to know, feel free to ask. Leave comments.
Discussions.
What's your personal practice look like?
Yes,
we would love to know.
I definitely want to know.
Definitely want to know. And like I said, all the books that we mentioned here, we're
will
going
linked.
to be put in the show notes.
Yes. And with that, guys, have a good one. We'll see you next time.
Yep. See you. Bye.
Hello, everyone. Scott here. I've been reading tarot for over 10 years. I am an intuitive reader, and through my readings, I try to give guidance to aid my clients in navigating their lives. To schedule a reading with me, you can find me on Facebook at Witchwise Seer and Witch. You can also find me over on Instagram and Tumblr with the handle Witchwise, spelled WYTCHWYSE. You can find links to all of my social media in the show notes. I hope to hear from you.